And welcome back, everybody, to Opportunity Knocks, the podcast for business people, small business owners, and everyday people who find opportunities and are looking to maximize leverage and take advantage of the situations that life presents itself. We had a great first episode the other day. This is episode 2. I've got another dear friend. I can't wait for you guys to get to know who she is. I am here today with someone I feel should be on every single one of those 30 under 30 lists that we all see in our businesses. I'm guessing you're still under 30, but I won't ask. I won't. Okay, you said it. She should be at the top of these 30 under 30 lists. This woman is an absolute superstar. She joined the quote unquote family business, followed her mom's footsteps, and got into the loan officer business. How many years now?
Probably like we're going on 7, I think.
That's it. So under 37 years doing it. So this goes back to one of the conversations we had about my dear friend Galen Trombley, 29 years old, 9 years in the real estate business. So she is a successful loan officer who has managed to take advantage of the opportunities created by things such as social media, all things social media, to put them all under one umbrella. She is the 2019, the thing I'm most proud of her with, she is the 2019 Leukemia and Lymphoma Society chapter of Long Island Woman of the Year. Outstanding. Helped raise over $100,000 for cancer research, all in the name of her niece, who is going through her second bout of chemotherapy as we speak. Or I'm hoping she's almost done with it.
Almost, yeah. Bone marrow transplant.
So she's had the bone marrow transplant, all that kind of good stuff. And she is recently off the plane back home to Long Island from a 3-day event in Texas, Rachel Hollis' Rise event. And if you know anything about me, you know I was a conference junkie for years. I've backed off of that over the last couple of years to spend more time on my business. But 3 days at any conference is absolutely exhausting, but it's also most likely extremely inspirational.
Life-changing.
So I want to introduce everybody to Lauren Zambelli from Cliffco Mortgage, one of my dear friends and an absolute superstar. Thank you so much for coming, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
It's great to have you. So let's dive right into it. Let's talk about the event. Tell my listeners who Rachel Hollis is for those who don't know who she is.
So Rachel Hollis is a entrepreneur who is completely self-made, high school graduate. One of her, fame quotes is that you could do anything with a Google search engine. So she is totally self-made. She is super woman empowering. That's like her message. You could do anything you set your mind to. Self-love. That's Rachel Hollis. She was a super successful celebrity party planner. And that is kind of how she got her start at doing that and food blogging. And now she has mogul tattooed on her wrist. And I have to say, I'm pretty sure she made it there.
So she's one of these people who's taken advantage of opportunities, successes, and failures, really followed her dreams, and just completely committed to her success.
Yeah, and she's living it, which is, I think, why so many people love her.
And Rachel, not to stereotype, but I'm going to say Rachel's demographic is primarily female. Let's start there, and probably under the age of 40, if not younger as well.
Yeah, this conference alone was about 8,000 women, 3 men, and
including her husband.
Yeah, not including her husband. Or the guest speakers. A lot of those were men, and I would say most of the room was under 40.
Okay,
yeah.
Which is a good thing. Everybody, it's the old phrase is riches and niches.
Yeah.
And that's a good one. I'm not embarrassed to say I did read one of her books. We were talking about it briefly before, just to get a little bit of an understanding who she is. And I actually sent it to my daughter, who's going to be 25 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of value in those books.
Yeah. And it's nice from my standpoint as a 50-year-old white male, almost 50-year-old white male, to say, how's the other half living? What are people paying attention to? And when you see someone make that much noise in what, to me, seemed like a very short, literally her rise to superstardom seemed like it was overnight. It was probably 20 years in the making to make the overnight success.
Yeah, she says she's been working on this for 15 years, relentlessly working on this for 15 years. But I truly believe, her claim to fame happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think really, I knew a little bit about her because I've seen her pass through the Vaynerchuk world a little bit.
Right.
But you really brought her full force to my attention.
Yeah, I feel like we're real life best friends, me and Rach.
Yeah, and that's listen. I was watching a video and I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but I was watching a video from Gary last night. And I'm like, son of a bitch, that's me.
Yeah,
he's 9 years younger than me, or 7 years younger than me, and born in in Russia
Mhm.
over here, and so much of it is in common. And I think it's just the more we pay attention to things, the more we become self-aware, the more we realize so many other people have those same personality traits,
So true.
issues, problems, concerns,
I
life
see a
troubles, and
lot of
successes.
myself in her, so I feel like I gravitate towards
Yeah.
her because I feel like she makes it seem like what I want to accomplish
Yeah.
is possible because she did it herself.
It's like depending on who you ask, everybody says you always need a rabbi in your
Yeah,
life, whether you're Jewish or
it's
not.
true.
Gary was my rabbi for a while.
Mhm.
Dad was my rabbi for years. Mom was my rabbi. Gary became my rabbi. I got a bunch of coaches.
Yeah.
Dean Hartman. Dean did more than his fair share of yelling at me over the years that we've done
Yeah,
business, and
you
I
and me
and I lo-
both,
and I love him.
Dean.
Well, you get the pleasure of working with him every day. I only see
Yeah.
him once a month, or talk to him once every couple of weeks.
I mean, last time I got yelled at was yesterday.
But life would be so much different and less enjoyable if he didn't do it, right?
Yeah.
At least that's what we got to tell ourselves.
Mhm.
Dean's a good guy, and one of the best educators of the mortgage industry that I've ever met, which is
Definitely.
why I've stayed so close to him over the years.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. You go to this event. You're looking to come home with something. Tell us what it is that you do. Did you go? Let me take a step back.
Yeah.
Did you go there with a plan of action to say, this is what I want to come home with? Or did you just kind of immerse yourself and say, let's see what happens?
So this is the craziest thing, but I went, and this might sound like petty, but I went with the like three specific things in mind.
Good for you.
One was, but they aren't great things. One thing was I was not leaving without a picture of Dave Hollis and me.
Okay.
Was not leaving without one. The second thing was I was not leaving without a signed autographed copy of her book. And the third thing was I wasn't leaving without at least one tangible thing I could set into action the day I got back to make a change towards where I want to go. Like at least just one. That's all I said to myself.
I got to be honest, I
Yeah.
absolutely love your list, because what you did there was working backwards. You took something that will make a difference in your business and your life.
Yeah.
You use the other, and that's the professional side. The personal side, which we don't give ourselves enough credit for all too often, you made it personal.
Mhm.
And that drove you to get the third thing. So to walk out of there to get the warm and fuzzy of shaking his hand, giving him a
Yeah,
hug, getting an
exactly.
autograph,
For me, that was important.
it takes your level of emotion while you're there. And also, I think it puts you in a position to say, look what I was able to achieve, no matter how. Listen, for some people, walking in the door and sitting 30 rows away
Right.
from the roof was more than enough.
Right.
In your case, you wanted to get up close and personal, and you
Yeah.
achieved that. So there's no such thing as little victories.
So true.
I commend you for going, and that's kind of was a leading question. I commend you for going in with a plan of action. I made the mistake all too many times. I'm going to this event and they do all these things, and I'm going to do whatever happens when I get there.
Yeah.
And you get there and just get so overwhelmed.
I was just going to say overwhelmed, and then you wind up leaving with nothing.
And or you overanalyze everything, you
Mhm.
get paralyzed, and you come home and you're actually in a worse spot than you were before you went,
true.
not including the expense and the time that you gave up
Mhm.
to go do it. So well done. Bravo for
Thank
that.
you.
I think that was fantastic.
It was
game plan.
awesome. It was absolutely
And I
awesome.
think 3 is always the magic number.
Yeah.
We look at everything we do and we say, well, what are our core values? There's 3. We're going to have to change that, but our core values, we have 3, and we live and die by them. Our projects that we work on, what are the 3 most important steps? Nothing moves up the list until they start to get
Right.
done. And I think that rule of 3s makes it easy enough to be accessible, realistic, and if you focus on, there's so many more opportunities that get provided as a result of doing any one of them well or poorly or anything in the middle.
Yeah. And they always say I always say I want to make them achievable,
Yep.
realistic, but very high up there. So
There you go. So let's go.
Yeah.
Good segue. You'd started to mention something earlier, and I said I want to back off.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it till we're live. You were talking about goals.
Mhm.
So why don't you start that conversation with me and let me listen, and I'll chime in wherever you
Yeah.
need me to.
So one of Rachel's main mantras is that you should set 10 goals that will happen in the next 10 years that are so audacious and so crazy that if someone read them or you told someone them, they would laugh at you.
You're
They'd be like,
batshit
Lauren,
crazy."
you are nuts. That's never going to happen.
Yep.
So I've been practicing that now for months. She has a Start Today journal that you could purchase, or she has a podcast that she did if you can't purchase it. And that's what I love about her is that you don't need to buy things to
Amen.
practice what she does. She gives it all away for free. And if you want to buy a cute journal, you can, but you could practice it and implement it in your life without doing that. So while she was there, she went through the exercise of meditating and dreaming about what you want to look like in 10 years. And she tells you to get super specific. So it's not like I want to be rich. Like that's
Right.
not good enough for her.
Yep.
It has to be, I want to make this amount of money. I want to have this amount in my bank account. And this is what I wear. And this is who I am. And this is how I act. This is what I like, you know.
Do you put deadlines on those?
So I usually do, but she believes that you shouldn't, because anything that's so audacious and crazy shouldn't have a deadline.
Okay.
But she does say 10 years. So like you are trying to do
All right,
something.
so there is a deadline
Yeah.
on it. Okay.
But she said if you don't achieve it in the 10 years, it should just go on the next
Right.
list. So we did that, and it was nice because I did go with my mom and my sister, and they've never done that practice before.
Okay.
I do it every day in my book. So it was really cool to see someone's firsthand experience at it, you know, putting that together. And the practice itself is so scary. Like you're like, oh my God, am I really going to be able to make this amount of money or do this or like fly private only and like all these things. And you start to think like that negative voice gets in your head. Like you're never going to be able to do that. That's crazy.
That's
like,
self-talk.
yeah.
Yep.
And so we learned too, like you have to just cut that out. Like you have to recognize when you're doing it to yourself, and you have to squash it.
As someone who I've watched your evolution in your professional career, you know, we always hear what we can't do, what we shouldn't do.
God.
And if you watch, and I said I'm not going to air it, but there's a good chance I air the kind of the pilot episode. I had my 10-year-old daughter in here with
I love
me.
that. Did you see me with my little emojis?
I put a 1-minute clip because that line is so important to me.
So true.
The lack of never using the word can't, believing that anything's possible. And I thank my dear friend Brian Moses for really, you know, I always believed it. But Brian was one of my first real estate coaches almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And his story, I'm hopefully going to have him on here one day to tell his story, because it's mind blowing for so many people. It should be. But he instilled that practice in me and talked about when he met Stephen Covey and his wife, and
Mm-hmm.
they talked about that process of creating the plan. And I fell down the rabbit hole again. Damn it, see, Corey, it happens at least once every episode.
But that's what he's known for.
I am because I have that, you know, it's like I have that ADD issue where I start talking and all of a sudden the squirrel doesn't run around the room. He flies around the room like, oh shit. Oh wait, he'll come back eventually and it'll get to me. So we were talking about goals
and can't.
and can't. And you've always done a very good job from my standpoint of just saying that I'm just going to keep doing and doing and doing and doing. And you're aware enough, you're self-aware enough of the fact that as long as you keep moving, you're improving.
Yeah. If you're not moving forward, you're dying.
Yeah. And that's what I always say is if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, and not to knock it, but the skeptic in me, you know,
Right.
the angel and the devil's saying, well, you can keep moving forward, but there might be a cliff there. You never know.
It's so true.
And that's why I look at it and say, there's always got to be an evolution, and failure. There was a great book written called Failure. Failure is Not an Option. It was written about the guys who went to the moon. I forget who the author was, but it was a great book. And for them, failure wasn't an option because it was literally life and death.
Right.
You might have 3 guys blow up in the middle of space and never see them again. Failure on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, I think is the greatest educational tool we could ever leverage.
Yeah, we always say that if you're not failing, you're not trying.
That's exactly it. So along those lines, let's talk a little bit about your business and what you're doing to create opportunities for yourself. Now, full disclosure, I meet with your organization and a room full of realtors every month.
Right.
We have a great educational session for a couple minutes. We talk about opportunities. We talk about the state of the market, all those other things. And Dean and company, Dean and the Zambelli trio always bring us some fantastic information on the state of the market that we as real estate salespeople may not be as aware of. And we get a great education.
Yeah, I love those meetings.
But what I love that you've done is Lisa, Larissa, Dean, you've decided to build your business off the back of relationships.
Yes.
So talk to me about why you chose to go that path and what you're doing to strengthen those relationships.
So, I mean, since I'm little, I've, watched my mom grow different businesses. She had a floral shop at first, and then she did mortgages. And her mantra was always building relationships and closing loans. Because this business truly it's not about the loans. Like the
Never.
loan at the bare minimum, we should be closing the loans well. But it's really about the relationships. We are referral driven. like all our business is from referrals and social media.
Okay.
So that's really the core of our business. And I want to enjoy what I do, and relationships are important to me. And
So,
yeah.
so let's go dive a little bit
Hmm.
deeper in explaining the referral part of it.
Sure.
When you say referral, where are these referrals coming from?
So I would say 90% of my business is strictly from past clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Th-
And my real estate referrals.
And that's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
So you've got two verticals that you're always working. You're working the past clients because you're friendly with these people and you know them.
They already know I could do a good job.
And you've established a relationship
Hmm.
with them because you are not only good at your job, but you and your mom has always been a superstar at it.
So
I'm
true.
so envious, and I hate the word, but I'm so envious of the fact that she's so capable of doing that so easily, and it's such a challenge for me. But different personality
Yeah.
types. But you've got your past clients who are referring people back to you, and then Dean and his entire organization has always been driven by creating relationships with realtors.
Absolutely.
What so your business, and I don't want to define it for you. Jump
Yeah.
in and tell me when to shut up. Your business is basically built on developing relationships with successful business people.
Yeah. And I mean, even more so, I kind of like the real estate agents that are just getting started, that are hungrier than
Amen.
hungry.
Amen. I couldn't agree with
Yeah.
you more because you can bring so much value to them up front, make their life so much easier, and hopefully help them
Yeah.
avoid that cliff that most real estate agents fall off somewhere between the 6th and the 18th
And I
month.
think that anyone who's willing to work hard will be more successful than someone that's been doing it for a long time and
I
doesn't
was so
care.
disappointed at our last meeting. The young woman who came in, I didn't, I got a chance to talk
Oh, she's
real
great.
quick, but I didn't even get to introduce myself to her because
Yeah.
she had to run out so fast, which made me happy. Like,
Yeah.
she's going and
No,
tearing it
she's a
up.
go-getter.
But I can't wait because I love, one of the things that I love most. I'm still, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm right around the peak age of the average realtor in this country.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little bit short of the average, to
You're
be honest
younger.
with you.
Hmm.
But I love all these young people who are getting into the business because it's like I say, having my fourth child kept me much younger than I was because my youngest at the time, I think was 12, 13, 14 years apart.
Right.
I've evolved so much as a person being a dad to an infant again.
I came in. Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
I look at all these young faces. I mean, you're sitting here, you're under 30. Corey's 23. We had Galen on the other day, is 29.
Yeah.
It's just so exciting to see where life is going and how I'm the furthest thing from a millennial basher. I think your generation is one of the greatest that's active right now. You're never going to be able to, none of us are ever going to be able to compare to that greatest generation from the
Right.
World
Right.
War II days. Um, just because of the sheer amount of respect we have to have for what they did, none of us would be willing to do a tenth of what they
Yeah.
do in most cases.
I just think every generation has its own.
I know more 50 and 55 and older schmucks than I do 30 and unders. And I don't use that word lightly. I
Yeah.
mean it. There's a bunch of flakes everywhere. But those of you who do what you do it so well and have no fear of failing in so many ways. There's still a lot of 28, 29-year-olds living at home. I'm proud to say you're a homeowner.
Thank
Your younger
you.
sister who just graduated
Yeah.
college not too long
Just
ago
bought her own house.
bought her own house. I mean,
Crazy, right?
this is what it's all about. Talk about independence.
I know.
Yes, you work together with mom and your dad's kind of tied to the industry as well,
Definitely.
being a former contractor and now in the home
Yeah.
engineering inspection service business. But you guys also have, to use the line you used earlier, that old school Italian mentality. You guys stay as tight as it could be.
Yeah.
And
We're super tight, but I think a lot of it's how we're raised. Like that's why
Yeah.
I was totally geeking out on your your post of your daughter, because my parents raised us to believe, like, truly, if you want to do it, you just do it.
That's it.
Like there's no thinking about it. There's no, when I got nominated for Woman of the Year, I went, I went to my mom's office and I was like, Mom, I thought she was coming, to ask me to run a marathon, because I had run a marathon previously with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and I thought she wanted me to run another one. So when she came in and nominated me for Woman of the Year, and she asked me for my goal, I said, "Well, what did the number one woman in the Northeast region raise?"
Right.
So she was like, 120, I think."
Okay.
So I was like, "All right, I'm going for 130."
There you go.
And I went in and told my mom. My mom is like, "Okay, let's do it." And most parents don't have that reaction. So I think being
And a
raised
lot of
with
kids
that
don't get
mentality.
that reaction from their parents.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think being raised with that mentality since I'm little it just gives you a whole different outlook on life that most people aren't fortunate enough to have.
And I'm so proud to say that I got the chance to be part of that team to
Oh,
watch you fail so
couldn't have.
miserably because you didn't hit your 130. You ended up with what, 108 and change?
I know, but I couldn't even done the
It
108
was
without you.
no, that's not why I said it. It was absolutely, and I love the fact that you set such a big goal for yourself because you wanted to be the best. And you know what?
Yeah.
So you failed miserably. You just put $100 and something thousand in the hands of people who are going to go out there and make a huge difference in hopefully not only the lives of the people who are here today suffering with it, but helping to cure cancer in the future so we never have to deal with it. So
I know, and it's crazy.
I
Like,
love those kind of failures. They put such a huge smile on my face, and I gotta be. I was so goddamn proud for you. I
Thank
really
you.
was. It was a great time.
And it's like it's twofold because one was if you don't ever set audacious goals, right? I would have never have raised $100,000.
Right.
You know, like I would have never even came close to that if I didn't have the goal of 130.
Yep.
If I would have set, just like a $50,000 goal like everyone else was doing at the
Right.
time, maybe I would have raised 50, but I would have never went over that.
Yep.
So I think one, it's important to set goals that maybe scare you because they'll push you to be something great. And then two, I was out the other night and saw a few people from high school, and sometimes we don't like to do that,
Yep.
but I saw a few people, and I was amazed at their reaction towards Woman of the Year. And everyone knew that my goal was 130, and everyone knew I fell short.
Right.
But everyone was like, Lauren, like I can't tell you how much you've motivated me to go do something special because of what you did. And sometimes I have to be honest, I'm like, wow, but Lauren, you didn't hit 130. I didn't succeed at that.
But then you can
goal.
spin it as well and say,
Yeah.
okay, of the 8 people who were involved in this fundraising effort over the course of 10 weeks, what was the grand total?
888, right?
It
Something
was
like
it
that.
was over. I think it was
860?
something like $105,000 or $110,000 on average per person.
Yeah.
Now the fact that Asaph had such an amazing run.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about a guy who maximizes opportunities. You look at some of the events he did. Not many of the people
Crazy.
involved in this thing could have done that.
No, definitely.
That is a man of influence who had had a lot of people who had huge financial influence.
Yeah.
What I loved about it, I couldn't have been happier for the guy. But what I loved about most of the fundraising efforts I looked at, it was the epitome of grassroots.
Oh yeah.
It was, you know what? Let's donate a couple bottles of booze or a bag of dog food or whatever, and $5 here, $10 there. And towards the second half of the campaign, my goal wasn't to raise money. My goal was to raise awareness. And I was telling people, do me a favor,
Yeah.
donate $1, donate a nickel. I don't care what it is.
I mean, but most of my campaign was
and that's what
a few bucks at a time.
you were the epitome. I didn't get involved in any of the others. I saw Asaph from the outside. I didn't see what the other
Right.
6 did, but you were the heart and soul, the epitome of grassroots. And that, I think, the money is going to go such a long way, but the awareness that you created as a result of it,
Yeah.
life-changing for people.
And it was nice to hear people say, like, I believe in myself. And, I was talking to the person while I was out and he said, I'm starting this app for small business owners. And he was like, and I swear to God, I wasn't going to do it until I saw you raise all that money. And I was like, whoa, like, that's so
Yeah.
cool to see the impact you have on other people.
It's really what got me out of my comfort zone to start doing this. And while I appreciate all the kudos I'm getting from people and saying you're doing a great job and we love it, that's nice. It's still very uncomfortable for me to do it. But I overcome that hurdle by saying, I'm going to knock the table over, by saying I'll harp on it time and time again. I get out of bed in the morning every day to make a difference, never to make $1.
Yeah.
I live a comfortable life. I'm not afraid to admit that, I work my ass off to put my family in a position to not just have to survive, but to thrive.
Right.
And I've been blessed. But I look at what I do now and say, how can I grow this? It's part of the reason why, on a podcast run by a real estate broker or an agent here on Long Island, to hear them say, I never want to list another house or work with another buyer in that capacity as a salesperson again, is potentially career suicide. But the reality of it is I want to run a company where I can help if I, in my capacity, there's only so many houses I can help
Right.
help people sell a year. And I don't sell them. They do. I facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can help 5, 10, 20 agents do learn what I've done and take the leverage the systems and opportunities that I'd love to work on now, that's what I think I'm best at.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? That's a disservice to everybody else if I don't create that. So stepping away from sales, while it may be challenging and frightening and scary as hell, I still run the damn company, and my name is on the door for a reason. When we talked about changing the company name, we came up with 20 different ideas, and none of them hit me here. None of them were close to home. And I sat there and I said, well, shit, if Charles Schwab could do it and JP Morgan could do it, why
Yeah.
the hell can't I?
So
And
true.
then to take it one step further, when things get screwed up and I have 100 agents working for me, there's only one name on the door that people are going to place the blame on, and that's me.
Right.
And that's the role that I want.
No, it's so
The
true.
successes always belong to the people who are out there getting their hands dirty in the field every day. The failures are 100% my responsibility. And I think that's part of what I love about Dean and the three of you over at Clifco. Why I've been so committed to working with you guys and consistently being involved in your lives, because there's something special there. So let's get
Yeah.
back to this. Let's
Yeah.
get back to a little bit more. So any specific goals that you are willing to share publicly?
Yeah, I learned that
Let's
we
go.
should share them publicly.
Thank you.
Because we're putting them out in the world to manifest.
Yep.
So when they do come true, we could come back to this podcast. But I so it was funny because I was weary about telling people the goals, and then I saw Rachel Hollis get on stage with 8,000 people and call her shot that she only flies private, and she has a national name brand at Target and all these things. And I was like, heck, if one person could do it, so can I. So my goals, just to give you a few of them, I want to be a 7-figure earner in the next 5 years.
Okay.
So, we're supposed to write them down as I am a
Right.
7-figure earner. The other thing that's really important to me is I am a motivational speaker. I speak on stages nationally, and I help women grow their businesses and improve their lives. I have built a home. That is
Okay.
like something that's really important to me. I have taken my family to Europe and
Very
paid
nice.
for their trip to Europe. So I have 10 that are really, really important. But I think, and they sound crazy, they sound crazy. Like right now, when I think about them, I'm like, whoa, like that's nuts. But she really breaks it down in a way that you think like, if I write them down, it could it's going to happen.
I've never been when the book The Secret came out.
Yeah.
I had read stuff by a lot of people who were involved in that book when it 1st came out, and conceptually I got it. But I had also been living in that lane for a long time, so I got it from a very different standpoint. And they looked at it and said, if reading Napoleon Hill for years, what the mind can believe, if you think it, you could live it. If
Yeah.
what the hell's the line? If what the mind can achieve and what the mind can believe it can achieve, or something
Yeah.
along those lines. But that's basically it.
Well, she says it's so important how you write it. That
and,
goes
and
exactly
that's
what
the
you're
point.
saying.
Too many people look at the quote unquote, not to knock The Secret, but
Yeah.
to knock that and say, hey, like I hear Gary say all the time, I'm going to sit here and dream and say to myself over and over, I have $1 billion. I have $1 billion, while you're laying on the beach in Jamaica smoking weed.
Yeah, that's not
It's
gonna
not going to happen,
Of course not.
But having that plan and believing it and seeing it every day really helps you always, on those bad days when you're laying in bed and you don't want to get out of bed in the morning, you look at it and say, I want to make a difference.
So true.
It becomes about someone else, something bigger. And I think human nature, most of us want to be a part of something bigger.
Yeah, and I mean, we were able to break it down, which is so nice because not only is it the way you write it, it's not I hope to have $1 million earning or whatever it is. It's I will, and it lets your
Living
brain
as if.
focus. Yeah, it lets your brain focus on how you're going to achieve it and how you're going to hurdle the like, I guess, I don't know, all the hardships that come up along the way.
Yeah.
But she gives you a roadmap too, which is nice in the conference. You only pick one to work on first.
Okay.
So the one that I picked on was my health and fitness. So for me, it's a specific way I feel. It's a specific way I jump out of bed. It's a specific weight I want to accomplish. So she gives you this roadmap. You focus on one thing at a time and you just chip away at each thing. And I think even in terms of loans, like in my main business, I wrote down, I close 20 loans a month.
Yep.
But for me, like right now, I'm not doing that type of business. But for me, knowing that that's where I'm going, it helps me daily, even with the practices
Yep.
I'm going to do daily. Like, am I talking to enough people? Am I following up with enough past clients? Am I meeting enough new people to get those
You
loans?
take all those micro steps that are necessary
Yeah.
to achieve the big one. You become more and more aware of them. They become habitual for you.
Exactly.
And the habits are the thoughts, the things that create the habits. There's several steps, but you go from thoughts to habits to your successes, and that's where it comes from.
And she's not saying nothing new. Like,
No,
like her message is not something I've never heard before, but I happen to like her. So I like the way she
right?
presents it. She's charismatic.
Yeah,
She's very like engaging. So that, I like, so it's nothing new, but to have it written down, have a plan is really nice. She does, and actually I have a blog coming up for, this, but she does like a 5 for Thrive.
okay.
And then I'm also giving a class for
I saw that.
Five
I
for
saw
Thrive.
that come
Yeah,
across.
so
That's great.
we're gonna do a personal development class for free in the office because I just feel like a lot of people can't afford a conference.
It's the first step. Well, there's the second step to your speaking engagement.
Yeah, I have my first official paid speaking gig
There you
in
go.
Chicago, so that's going to be
Good
like
for
my
you.
first one. But so 5 for Thrive is just 5 steps that you do daily to change your life. And she said that those 5 things changed her life the most. That's what she equated to the
Mhm.
most type of change and most success. So they're getting up an hour earlier and spending that time strictly on yourself. Getting in 30 minutes a day of physical activity because when you move, you change your mind. Um, Drinking your body weight in ounces of
Yep.
water because if you're not hydrated, you're
Yep.
not living. She talks about, there's a lot of things, and I'll post my blog, with the live.
Yeah, and we'll share that before we
Yeah,
finish here, and then we'll link it up so that if anybody out there has an interest in seeing what you do, Lauren provides an incredible amount of value. She launched her own personal blog that
yeah,
ties in her personal and her business and all her other aspirations as well. But it is, for lack of a better term, it kind of leans towards lifestyle
yeah.
and development.
More lifestyle and development. It definitely goes through everything that I do, and there's a lot of first time home buyer tips on there as
Yep.
well, mortgage tips. But really,
We've got to
it's
be who we are. We've got to be
yeah.
who we are in the office and outside the office.
Yeah,
Yep.
but like what kind of sets my soul on fire is really helping other
Yep.
people grow their businesses and, kind of leading the way in that area. So that's what it
It's
focuses on.
what led to. So one of the things where I really became infatuated with the things Lauren was doing was early on in us getting to know each other. You took it upon yourself to put together classes for real estate agents
Yeah.
on how to, on how to, as simple as setting up a business page on Facebook.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
important.
yeah, and you're willing to do the things that are what those of us who've been doing it for a long time may look at as remedial. And it was, I'll never forget, I'd gone to the same class that you'd done 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
And you finally said to me, what the hell are you doing here? You're doing so much more. And my response was, I'm auditing what you do so that we can come up with an idea to build something bigger and better.
Right.
And we made our first attempt, and I wouldn't say it failed, but it definitely did not succeed. We put together
No,
a
but we
group
have
on,
to pivot.
well, and that's exactly it. As you noticed, yesterday's podcast
Was our
recording
pivot.
was our pivot. Today's is on there.
Yeah.
I'd love to stream it live, but we've got enough phones and things recording right now.
Yeah.
That's down the road. But I think that's it. Is we looked at those opportunities, to get back to the title of the show, and say, how do we put people in a position to succeed? And it's never about. I think what connected me to you is what we do is never about the financial success.
No.
It's about the victory of, I love the book by Donald Miller called Building a Story Brand. I've been reading it a lot, and I
Mhm.
tear it apart chapter by chapter now. But it's telling the story of other people, and it's why the green gremlin Yoda is sitting on my table here. Um, we are. I'm very comfortable never being the hero. My role, and what makes me happiest, is being the guide in other people's processes so that they can have the successes and the victories and celebrate and be the hero.
Right.
And I can go back to the swamp like Yoda and say, I'll live another 400 years
That's
until the
awesome.
next Luke Skywalker comes along and needs
Right.
my help. Um, so I think what you are doing is very much in that line. It's you're deepening your relationships with the people you serve in the office by teaching them, but you're putting them in a position to succeed. And you've taken it to so many different levels that you've done 201 and 301 type
Yeah.
courses, whether people realize it or not. And you're always looking to create educational opportunities.
Or even just opportunities for people to meet each other. Like the high heel happy hour was so important to me because there's no one doing like you
Yeah.
can't go meet 25 to 50. Now we're getting into like groups of 60 and 70, but
Yep.
you can't go and meet business owners that are like-minded and
Yeah.
there's nowhere to do that for free. So I just feel like
And it's not
you got to give.
it's not the old school networking.
No.
Everybody walk in with 50 business cards and say, "Who can you help?
Yeah,
Who can
no.
you send me?" I joined the networking group for the first time in my life. recently, and we're
Did you
going.
really?
Yeah, a woman by the name of Valerie Lamp runs a company called Elephant Networking, and
Very
she's
cool.
incredibly outside the box. And I did an interview with her at your office, and she refused to be on camera. So we got some great content, but all you see is her elbow every once in a while in the screen. And I told her, I said, "You're getting in front of the camera, and you're sitting in that
She'll
chair with
get
me."
there.
But and it's an obstacle she has to overcome. But she's a brilliant, brilliant woman. And I met her. I heard her on someone else's podcast, and
Mhm.
that guy connected us in the wonderful world of networking. But we were talking, and I said, I'm not a fan of networking groups, and they've never worked for me because not that they don't work for me. What happens between these two ears is very different, I think. Um, so we got to talking, and I said, if I could walk into your event, what would it take to get you to get involved with us? And I said, well, I'm going to walk in that room, and my only question after the introduction is, hey, hey, I'm Dean. Hey, you're Lauren. Who's your ideal client? Who's your target audience?
Right.
I don't want to. Who do you know that's buying or selling a house? If someone walks up to me, if I were to walk up to someone and say that, and they didn't punch me in the face, I'd be offended. It's not what I do. It's back in the days when we used to cold call. $8,000. Do you know anybody looking to buy or sell in the next 6 months? And we got a lot of FUs for a reason, because we were bringing no value.
Right.
So now you walk into those events and you say, okay, who can I put you in touch with to better serve you?
You have to be like a little matchmaker.
And that's exactly it. Again, I used the word facilitate before,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing. And at the first event we went to, I met a guy who's a dog trainer. I met a guy who's in credit repair. I met a divorce attorney. I met a guy who's in the media business. I met two other brokers. And not once did anybody in that room say, who do you have for me? It's, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
And we'll get at least 3 podcast guests or vlog guests out of that first meeting.
That's awesome.
I've already sent 2 possible referrals out that could had the potential to be 5-figure deals for these people if they're able to convert the client, and I'm there to help them do that if they want. And I just look and say, I just want to make more noise to create more opportunities to see where we could be of benefit to people.
I just really think in this day and age, especially going into 2020, if you're not actively seeking out how you could help other people grow their businesses, you're not going to be successful.
You're never going to grow your own.
It's like a mentality. And I truly believe like givers gain.
Yep.
And I'm going to put out, like, my mission in life is just to put out all the free content and all the live video and every single free thing I could put out to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I truly believe it'll come back to me in tenfold.
I couldn't agree with you more. So
yeah.
when we were going through the exercise of doing our vision and our mission and our core values a couple months ago, we talked about it, and someone challenged me and said, can you help 10,000 families in 10 years? And instantly, the first thought most people in my shoes as a salesperson would say, can I sell 10,000 houses? The second he said that to me, I swear it maybe took 3 seconds, if that long. I said, without a doubt.
Right.
He's like, quote, that's a ballsy thought. Like, well, you got to, and I looked at him, I said, I don't plan on selling 10,000 houses. I don't plan on selling 5,000 houses that could impact. I said, to be honest with you, I don't care how many I sell. What drives me? I had a chance to meet Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher,
Okay.
in Vegas at a conference in January. I think it was January of this year. Or it might have been January last year. I don't even remember anymore. But he was on stage and he's like, who's got what? And because he said, to go back to your point earlier, who's got a BHAG? And half the room looked around like, what is that? And I stood up right away and put my hand up. BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And he looked at me and he goes, brother, what is it? I said, I want to figure out a way to solve the homeless veteran problem in this country.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, he was like, done. I don't need to hear anybody else's. Had I done that a little bit later, it would have had a different impact. But afterwards, he called me over and we spent some time off to the side of the stage talking. And, Eric's got multi-million-dollar followers, multi-millions of followers out there, not dollars.
Probably both.
But he's got a few bucks of his own. He's got a phenomenal story as well. But I wasn't a huge follower of his. He just happened to be the keynote there, and I'd heard of him and seen some of his stuff. It's hard not to when you're in my business to not see some of his stuff come across on the web.
Right.
And he said to me, how do you plan on doing it? So getting back to my point, whether I start a foundation, whether I partner with someone else, whether I fundraise for them, I look at everything and say, what impact did I have? On every sale I do, I look at how many families. We just closed a deal a couple weeks ago where Mom's in her 90s, outlived her reverse mortgage, her
Yeah.
value to
Wow.
the bank. Which, and please don't take that the wrong way, but this is the way the bank saw it.
Yeah.
She's upside down on the mortgage. So we ended up helping her. What we did there, we had an impact not only on the investor who bought it and the people who were going to buy it from him,
Hmm.
but we had an impact on the daughter who was managing the quote
Her
unquote
finances.
estate and her
Yeah.
finances. We had an impact on mom. We also had an impact on all the other grandchildren
Right.
who got to say, exhale, we don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, I'm not going to micromanage and count every one of the family members there to put them on my checklist of my tally sheet. But yeah, we had a massive impact and we got paid a few bucks, but we made a huge difference. The daughter no longer has to worry about the financial responsibility. She can worry more about mom having the right quality of life. And that was one of the things that tore her apart every day.
Yeah.
So, I look at those things and say, that's where it comes from, is how do we put people in position to be comfortable and happy? And
I feel like the general public is much smarter now too. Like they're seeing through people who aren't doing
yeah.
things to genuinely help people. They're not, like you
And
can't fake it anymore
they're also seeing through the people who are doing things to help other people, but they're only doing that as a
for
front.
the wrong reasons.
You know,
Yeah. And
like
I think it's apparent.
when Tom's the shoe company came out and said, for every pair we sell, we're going to give a pair away.
Yeah.
That was authentic. There was a food company that did something similar to it, but then all of a sudden you had all these frauds that came out and said, well, for every one of these you buy
Yeah.
from us, we're going to donate $1 here.
Like
And
people want to see the real thing.
yeah,
I mean, I think in a society where we're just hit with so much media, so
yep,
much social, so
yeah,
much, and people could see through the people who aren't authentic. And I don't know if recently you saw on my Facebook story, but I posted like it was such a bad day. It's such a bad day. And I think for the most part, I come
oh,
on
you kind of
social.
went on a rant, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I did
I'm
see that.
always on social, like live your best life and work hard, and if you're not failing, you're not trying, like all these things, like I truly believe that stuff and I live that way. And I'm empowered, I try to empower people and work hard. But when you're doing those things, you have just as many days that you're like, "Oh my god, like can someone just give me a break?"
Yeah.
Like, and you're down and you're negative and all these things, and no one ever shows that.
Nope.
So I got on there and I was like, "Guys, this day was
This
terrible."
sucks.
Like, yeah. And I can't believe the amount of just engagement and messages I got from people like, wow, thanks so much for sharing that, because you make it seem like, not you specifically, but people make it seem like they have such a perfect
Yeah.
life. And there's no one out there that is not going through like struggles and days. And
No.
I just think,
On every given day,
yeah,
someone's going to have some kind of pain point.
yeah, but no one ever, I feel like not a lot of people
Yeah,
talk about it.
and that goes to another word that I've used a lot lately is transparency.
Yeah.
I I'm still learning. I'm a digital nomad. I've wandered into your world. You guys are the natives, born
Yeah.
into it. You don't know life without it. That's just the way that it is chronologically. And I look at it and say, okay, I have all these moments, all these opportunities to share, and I'm not used to grabbing for the phone every 22 minutes to say another success, another success. Ah, shit, I fell on my face.
Right.
I don't know who it was. We had a conversation somewhere and we were talking about documenting your day and Twitter. It might have been while Corey and I were out in California. We talked about somebody tripping and falling down and saying, "Oh shit, I fell down, got back up." I don't. Yeah, it might have been Gary, but those are the things, and I look at that and say the opportunities where I have my struggles and my failures all too often could lead to laughter. And since the day, my brother would have turned 47 yesterday. Passed away 10 years ago. But I'll never forget after the funeral, we went back and had a huge room full of people. And I was asked to get up and say a few things. And I looked around the room and there was an incredible crowd. I mean, he had a line down the door for 2 days at the wake. Um, but I got on the mic and I said, if you do anything in life, the one thing I could tell everybody is when you get out of bed in the morning, have the intention of laughing at something every day, preferably yourself, and go out of your way to make someone else laugh or smile every day.
I love that.
And if you do that, life never sucks. You
Yeah.
can deal with the bad. Situations happen. We got to figure out how to take advantage of the opportunities to make a difference.
I
So
think that and gratitude I've learned
I
is
think
such
that's what
a
it is.
huge
Yeah.
thing, because and it's gratitude in general, and the practice of gratitude has literally shifted my entire life, because I now make it a mission every day. I wake up and write the 10 things I'm most grateful for. And they're not big things.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh, I'm healthy. It's more like I had the perfect cup of coffee,
Yep.
or there was no traffic on the way to work, or just little things
Live
like
in the
that.
moment.
And I can't tell you, it's shifted everything, because now instead of looking for the things that happen that are bad, I'm constantly seeking out the things that are good.
And you appreciate them that much
And
more.
you, yeah, and you
Yeah.
see it, and it's just like it definitely makes a big difference. So I think if anyone's struggling with, being positive and finding things to be grateful for, I think that's a really good
I watched the guy the
practice.
other day, Jay Ciano, who's from Sabre Commercial Real Estate, and Jay's a character. I'd like to get him on here or get him to do one with him, because he's a wild man, commercial real estate rock star, and I mean rock star, huge company, Sabre.
Awesome.
And he makes my efforts on social look like I do it once every year. He's on it nonstop. His stories sometimes are 30 or 40 posts long. But he was driving around, went to Starbucks, didn't order anything, cut everybody off at the window, and went up to the window. No, pulled up, and he says, "I want to pay for everybody's stuff." By the time he got to the window, half the store employees were standing out there. He had the camera; they were all cheering and rah rah.
That's
He
awesome.
paid for somebody, and then someone else ordered, and he said, "Let me pay for them too." And like little things like that. A guy who's got who's got more than enough money in his pocket to buy 5, 6 cups of coffee, just decided to do something, and he shared it. And
Yeah.
I look at that, and I was always of the mindset, what I do charitably, I've got to keep quiet. It's for me, because I don't want to come across as being bragging.
Yeah.
But I've completely flipped that. It's like I want everybody to know everything I do, because there's a reason for it. And maybe I can inspire you to contribute to my cause and jump on my bandwagon, or maybe I can inspire you to get off your ass and go do it yourself for something that's important to
That's what I
you.
think is most important, because
Yeah.
I try to do that every Friday. I call it Pay It Forward
Yep.
Friday, and I'll try to pay for something somewhere for somebody. And I never usually share that,
Hmm.
but then I realized, like, you really should start telling people that, because I think there is a message and people see that and hear that, and they start doing things themselves
There's
that
so much
are
power
like,
in it.
yeah.
It really is.
I just think, I don't know, especially with social nowadays, it's really nice when people put out positive
Yeah.
messages. I feel like it brightens everybody's day.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, don't watch it. That's
Yeah.
okay. Going back to that self-awareness thing, there's always going to be that troll out there, but it's funny. The more this becomes the norm
Yeah.
for the older generations, the less trolling you see.
I got to meet Trent Shelton
Okay,
at the Rise,
okay.
and he was a keynote, and he said, like, if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right.
It was how I got my start in this business. I used to
Yeah.
literally walk around the office some days with a bullseye target taped on my back, saying, "Come after me," and I used a lot of bad words
Yeah.
back then. But
And
I'd walk around the office and call everybody bad words and
that's
say, "Somebody
awesome.
come after me."
He was like, there are people who haven't been converted yet
Yeah.
to your side of the fence. Like,
And they
it's so
may not
true.
they may not ever be converted to your side of the fence, but the hope is that they would convert themselves away from the negative side of the fence and find something positive on the
Most
other
people,
side.
and I feel like most people who show hate directly towards you, they're just in their own,
They're losing
their
it in their
own
own pain.
head, and they have their own things going on. I don't know. I always feel bad for
Yeah.
people like that.
And that's what I love. I think that's where the mind shift of society is going to happen. Is you know to completely change a society, you got to start with the youngest ones and hope
Yeah.
that one catches on and can have an impact on others. We can't change. You look at the world we live in now. No matter which side of the aisle you vote for, everybody hates everybody. Eventually, that hatred hopefully will all just die off and move right off into the sunset. And the younger ones who will come in and be realistic will come along and say, "Hey, there's opportunities for us to work together."
I just like the fact that there are so many people looking to make a positive
Yeah.
improvement in their life. Like, even those 8,000 women in that room, none of it, like, we didn't vote the same way. We didn't look the same
Hmm.
way. We didn't have the same religion. But at the end of the day, everyone and the community and that came together.
You
And
had a
like,
commonality.
it was crazy. And to feel that energy in a room, that's why people say they're so hyped up when they come back from
Yeah.
a conference, because to look around and say, like, I have literally nothing in common with most of the people in here. But the fact that, I mean, people are getting tattoos while we're there. Like, it was insane, And Rachel joked around. She's like, you're gonna come home and everyone's gonna think you joined a cult.
That's how we
And
started this
yeah,
conversation.
and I could see why. But like, to feel the energy of like there's so much potential and power that's in a room of, like, especially women, because for the narrative for most of my life is that women don't do the same things men do. So it was just so nice to see, like, just like even the women empowerment, and to think, like, what the world's going to look like if we're teaching our children
Right.
and our young like women how to be like more confident and live into their own self and
Yeah.
not worry about their stretch marks or their, like it was just really cool to see, kind of the
Just be.
narrative the
Yeah.
narrative change of like the future.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end here
Yeah.
if we haven't already run over. So
Probably
let's
knowing us.
let's start here. Let's talk about you. How talk about your website quickly. How people can get in touch with you. How people can follow you. Because I believe that you're doing things that deserve a bigger audience than you have, and I
Thanks.
want to give you the opportunity to share that with people. So
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that.
your website.
So my website is livewithlala.com. Yeah.
LIVEWITHLALA.com.
Yeah.
And on that, you've got.
That's me. So you're gonna see, my mortgage stuff. If you have any mortgage
Okay.
related questions or need a loan or some credit help, you're gonna see all my lifestyle stuff. Any classes I'm giving are on my calendar there. You'll
Right.
see the video, get to know me, and just kind of my life. That's my,
Okay.
my blog.
And Lauren works for a company by the name of Cliffco Mortgage, which is
Yeah.
based out of Westbury, right on Old Country Road, right off the Wanto Parkway. Convenient to get to. She does most of her classes at the office
Yes.
there. So check out her website. If you're in the real estate business, you definitely should connect with her. Follow her on social. Find her. You have. I'm assuming you have all your social links on your website.
Yeah, you could
Just making sure.
definitely find me on my my website has everything, but I do have a personal and a mortgage just for people to understand. I have Live with Lala on Instagram, and then I have LZ Mortgages, which is me, my mom, and my sister,
Okay.
and that is strictly mortgages.
So if you're a real estate agent and you have capacity to handle some conversations with a really good lender, I highly recommend that you at least give Lauren a conversation or the time for a conversation. Grab a cup of coffee. She's another caffeine junkie like several others that I know out there. I refuse to be that person, but I get it. But if you're aspiring to be something, we hope that Lauren's story here and the conversation that we stirred up inspires you to take action on something. Life is full of opportunities, both good and bad, but all too often, many of them are what you choose to make of them.
So true.
Lauren has taken advantage of the opportunities presented to her to create great opportunities for other people. She's creating great success. She's creating great stories, and she's creating um, um, incredible things happening for so many people. And she's going to turn her current day successes into massive successes. I have no doubt about that. It's the one of the few regrets I have about my daughter living in Chicago is that she's not here to spend more time with people like you.
I know she'll have to come when I go to Chicago. I'll have to go find her.
Yeah, and I told you that I want you guys to connect because I think you could just help her with so many things, and I think there's some value she could bring to you as well.
Definitely.
I love seeing those kind of connections happen. So Paige, if you're listening, start paying attention to Lauren. She's coming to get you.
Yeah.
What else you got going on? So you've got the classes in the office that you're
The
doing.
next class that I have coming up is going to be the personal development class.
Okay.
It's free. All the classes I give are free.
Where can people find out about that?
That's going to be on my website, and that is in my Instagram.
Okay.
If you go to the link on my Instagram profile, you just have to sign up, put your email in, and that's going to be great. I'm going to go into detail about 5 for Thrive, what to do,
Good.
and tangible things.
You're going to steal
change.
Corey and you're going to document some of that stuff so you
Yeah.
can share it and spread the message, please. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Like we always say, we're trying to help everybody and anybody we can. So whatever resources we have, whenever we can share them with other people, we are more than happy to lend out our services on occasion. And if you have a bigger need, we've got some other solutions. We're more than happy to put you in touch and help you out with that.
Well, that's one of the greatest things about you, though. In all seriousness, you practice what you preach. So you talk about giving and whatever else, but you actually do it, which is nice.
Well, it almost makes me happier to see. The day that Corey did the video, it's kind of the summary of the fundraising and all.
Yeah.
And I saw that final product. I looked at it and I jokingly said to myself, "Damn, if you could only create content that good for
Oh my
me."
God, I
Now
literally
he's
cried.
it's on my payroll. But then I looked at it and I said,
Corey.
"But it's I am so blessed, and I've said it, and I don't say it to embarrass him. I'm so blessed to have found Corey at the time that I did. I'm so grateful for Ed Turney for introducing me to him. Hopefully we'll see Ed tomorrow night. I'm so grateful for Gary Vaynerchuk for putting together his 4Ds, which is how I met Ed.
Yeah.
I just look at all those dominoes that kept falling down to get him here. And he's doing, unless he's lying through his teeth to me, he's doing what he loves. And I watch him work, and there's nobody more passionate about their job.
You could tell because you get the videos and you're like, Oh my God, that was exactly what I had in my head.
I barely ever make an edit. What I did yesterday, I asked him to do one thing. I said there were four words on the top line and one on the bottom. I said, do me a favor, move the word core down next to the word values and have it as the second line. And that was it. That's like the biggest change I think I've requested in the longest time.
We have to do a whole podcast with Corey. He's my BFF.
We've talked about it. We're going to get him on this side of the camera, and I want to do a podcast with him. But I think eventually, what I'd like to do as well is do a roundtable with a bunch of people who've done this. Who, the more we do it, you're in the inner circle, and I know there's others out there who would be a great fit for it. To talk about networking.
Yeah.
Let's put 6 mics around a table and crack open a bottle of wine, a bottle of bourbon, and let's see where, shit'll fly everywhere. Let's see what sticks where.
And the ideas that you get
I
from
think
that.
the mastermind, to go back to Napoleon Hill, the power of the mastermind. You put 2 smart people in a room together, you got 2 smart people. You put 10 smart people in a room together with a common cause, you've got the minds of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And I just think the leverage from that, which is why I'm always looking to talk to people. It's not that I'd love the sound of my own voice. It's I'd love to learn. Same reason why I always said, put me on a stage in front of 1,000 people. I guarantee you I will learn more than all 1,000 of you combined in the 10 minutes you give me on stage.
I read something after the conference. They said that public speaking is the #1 fear in the world over death and spiders or whatever else. And I was like, whoa, like I didn't know that.
I hate it. But I know what I can get out of it when I'm given the opportunity to do it. I will stand there and sweat bullets, but I promise you'll get everything out of me.
It's crazy because it makes me even know like now I'm really meant for that because that doesn't scare me at all. So I was like, wow, that's crazy.
I always knew you were strange, but that's not a bad thing. Strange is a good thing, I got family down in Austin. It's just a weird little city. Everybody's strange down there. The normal people walk in and everyone looks at them cross-eyed. I want to thank you so much for your time. I know we've definitely overstayed the length of time we planned on doing this, but I just think there's so much great value that you bring to the table, and you bring the best out of me. And I just truly appreciate everything you and your family and Dean and the world that you guys come from has brought to the table, because it's opened my eyes to so many things. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend Lauren Zambelli. Follow her, give her a little thumbs up. Go see what she's doing. Pay attention. And let's see what we can do to create opportunities and make a difference. Have a fantastic day.